Hello there, lovely sewing friends. I hope you guys are doing well. I just had a thought. You guys might think that I film like 5 of these all on the same day because I always look the same, wearing this top, hair down, just out of the shower. And no, it actually is because I always film these on the weekend and I go to the gym in the morning. Then I come home and put on like my house clothes, being like casual stuff. And I've always got wet hair. So I always film these at the same time each week, so that's why I probably look the same. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a lovely week. It's been very hot here in Melbourne. Like, you walk down the street and you feel like you're in you're in the path of a hairdryer. It's just like hot wind all the time. So I've been spending quite a few evenings indoors and I've been doing lots of sewing. And whilst I have been sewing, I've also been, because I'm sewing all my Christmas stuff for people. So if you're on my Christmas list and you know who you are, you might want to skip this video, mum. But for the rest of you, I have been sewing up a whole bunch of Christmas stuff. So like bucket hats, like little shopping bags that I use all the time, like this one here. And I actually kind of, I'm just keeping all my Christmas sewing in here for the time being. And yes, there are lots of whales in here because a lot of my friends have got Christmas babies coming along, so lots of whales in there. I have also, whilst I've been sewing, I've been watching that new documentary by Netflix called Buy Now, and I am so glad that this is something that's now on mainstream media like Netflix, because I cannot tell you for how long I felt like I've been saying this to people and they just don't get it, because I don't think if it's in your like environment that you see, you don't really connect with. So having it on something like Netflix where you're like, oh, new documentary, I'll watch that over dinner, and then you see the type of overconsumption I've been talking about for years, it kind of really brings it home. So whilst I've been doing lots of sewing, I also wanted this video to show you guys some of my favorite make do and mends, because I think in that documentary, it really touched on, first of all, the overconsumption of unnecessary products. Like, for example, Australia is now the biggest consumer of textiles, as in clothes, in the world, averaging on 55 to 60 new items of clothing per person. How? I don't think I can understand that level of consumption, because I'm so far removed from it, because I've been on my own journey to get to the other end. Because I do understand how it starts for a lot of people, but today we know the consequences of it. And I don't think a lot of people attach their action of buying something unnecessarily to an outcome of what it actually costs them in the global sense. But anyway, I think that's another video. But today I wanted to show you guys my 3 favorite make do and mends, because I think a lot of people look at sewing as like something that they cannot do because they don't have a sewing machine or don't know people that sew, therefore they don't know who to go for to ask for questions. And this is exactly what this YouTube channel is for. It is for those types of people that want to learn how to sew but don't know really where to start, but also to show that sewing can be fun and enjoyable, and that you can add life to your garments. Because if I didn't know how to sew, I would have thrown these things out years ago. And ironically, I think it's worthwhile mentioning, all of the make do and mends that I have here to show you guys are all things that I made, and that was not like, I think you can come at that from 2 ways. One is I now know the weak point of my clothes, so that when I next sew a similar item, I'm going to reinforce it in that area that I've now had to make do and mend. But also I think it goes to show that I've slowly phased out the clothing that I have bought, and now a lot of my clothes that I do have in my wardrobe are ones that I've made myself. So let's just get into it. I'm going to show you guys, let's go from oldest to newest, shall we? So turtlenecks. This is a 100% merino turtleneck, the rise and fall turtleneck sewing pattern by Paper Cut. Very good sewing pattern, always recommend it. So I started a series called Sew Don't Throw on my Instagram to show that sewing can be repairing and mending what you already have, because a lot of people think that sewing requires you to make the whole thing. No, it doesn't. You can just start with what you've already got. So for example, and some of these repair jobs are like 4 or 5 years old, but you can see it started to come away at the little neck line and shoulder seam join there. So I just did a couple of, not known for my filming skills, so bear with me. So I did a little hand sewing just there, and I need to go in and redo this join here. One of those things that I'm just like, I'll get to it eventually. And we all know eventually never exists for a sewist. So there. So I did that little join. And then I know for a fact I did. See, yeah, this one is needing a few repairs because I've got this, the fabric has kind of like laddered there under the armhole. But I think I only found out about that as I was kind of putting everything away for winter. But the piece that I really did make do and mend for the sake of this video, as in like I redid, was along the hem here. So this stitch line had come undone, and it's just a basic zigzag. Let me just, you can kind of see it. Oh, my thread matching is just so good, you can't see my stitches. Oh yeah, but I did a little zigzag along here because one of the threads, oh, it's getting hot in here. One of the threads had snapped, and I just went through and basically undid the whole thing and then just redid that hem, so I can keep this in my wardrobe for many more years. Now, this is what I mean by learning from my mistakes. So when I first made this turtleneck, I only used a really narrow hem, overlocking seam there. You can see it's probably only about like 3 mils. Going back and remaking these, I would say I would probably use a 4-thread overlocker and a 1 centimeter seam allowance straight stitch on my sewing machine, which is what I have done on previous sewing projects. So I've learnt from this one. This one I've had for nearly 5 years, 5 going on 6 years. I've clearly worn it a lot because of the wear and tear on it. But now I know exactly what I need to do next time I sew with a knit. And I've actually made that change because you guys, I love this top, I love this top. So with this one here, what I've done is I sewed with a 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then I'll just try and find you a good seam, because what I had to do eventually is go back over some of my overlocking because my machine was being a little bit annoying. So you can see here, I've done a 1 centimeter seam allowance, which is the bottommost thread line there. And then I went with a 4-thread overlocker thread stitch there. So the difference between these two sewing projects, this was like one of my first knit sewing projects that I did for myself for winter, and then this, like, I've learned. So that's a great thing about Make Do and Mend, is that you then go, okay, I know more now, so next time I do something, I'm gonna do it differently. And I also think it's worthwhile mentioning that on this one here, I did the hem with a zigzag, whereas with this one here, I did it with 2 lines of straight stitch. So, and also this one, it's not a stretch, like the fabric is a stretch, but I made sure to do it with a straight stitch so that it doesn't stretch out of shape, out of proportion. So that's something I've learned when working with knits. Personally, I prefer to sew with a straight stitch and allow it all to keep it in shape, rather than a zigzag and have it warp over time. And also, I think you may have noticed or not, I actually didn't overlock this this fold, I just did zigzag. And so the difference in sewing projects that you get over time, you learn. Now the next one I did with some hand stitching, and you guys have seen this top on me so many times. This is my little Lucy top with vintage Liberty. The reason I call it my Lucy top is because during lockdown I ordered the fabric, it got delivered, I went to go check at the mailbox and it wasn't there, and I was like, where is it then? And I came up like an hour later or so, and I found the two dogs that we had at our house, one Lucy, my sister's dog, and one Harry, my parents' dog. They were playing tug of war with the package and they were just hiding it in the bush. That's why I couldn't find it. So there were quite a few little chew marks on this top, hence why there are multiple seams throughout it so that it could hide the little chew holes. But that being said, the make, do and mend I've done on this has actually just been at this here. So again, you may not able to see it very well, but I just did a running stitch just along there, because what I found is that the strap wasn't joined as well as it should have been to the main fabric here. So, and also this is a very high kind of stress area when you're sewing. So like any stress on certain points, like for example, if you look at your pockets on a top or a pair of pants, they'll have a little triangle, and that's because at the top of the stitch line, that's because that's where it needs to be reinforced for durability. Now, looking back on this top is held up by these 2 points of the strap attaching to the front bodice. So it needs to be more reinforced than what I originally sewed it at. So a way to make sure that that doesn't happen in your next sewing project is to back stitch a few times on there, or you can stitch it, because what I did is I sandwiched the strap in between the outer fabric and the lining, and then I sewed it. So what thing you can do is actually stitch it to the outer piece of fabric first with a stitch, and then stitch it with the outer fabric and the lining, so that it's reinforced twice. So that's just something easy you could do, so that you don't have to then go back and redo little bits of your sewing projects. Because speaking of it now, I can actually already start to see it come undone just there. You see how there's that little gap there? So this is a summer top, so I do wear it a lot in summer, but I also do layers with it, so I have a white t-shirt underneath it. So I've actually not worn it for about a week or so, and this is a really great opportunity to do some hand stitching while you're watching Buy Now by Netflix, or The True Cost, which is also another really great documentary if you're wanting to learn about overconsumption of clothes. So that's your second one. Now, my third is a pair of shorts, right? These tell me you're a sewist without telling me you're a sewist. You go show someone you're sewing and you still got threads from like 2-3 years ago on there. That's how you know. So these are a pair of pajama shorts here. So nice elasticated waistband, and got some pockets on the back. Not that you can tell because the fabric matches so beautifully, but you've got a little pocket there, right? So these are my summer pajamas, and it has a matching top as well for it. But these shorts, the back center waistband, where is it? Basically, the waistband stitching had snapped, and it was starting to, the elastic was starting to poke out, and I was like, because like at that point, this is what I'm guilty of as well. You think to yourself, oh, they're kind of falling apart. I might as well make myself a new pair, considering these are falling apart. When in actual fact, only a small, tiny part of it is falling apart, and you can repair it. No jokes, it took me like, you can see it here. So you can kind of see the stitching there, the like ladder work I did there, just to sew it up again. And only a small part of this had broken. Everything on the top is fine as well. It's just the shorts at the waistband. But because it was starting to fall apart, I was considering throwing it out, and making myself another pair. And it's like, hang on, no, just fix them. You can fix them very, very easily. It took me like 10, 15 minutes. And I filmed it, and it was on an episode of Sew Don't Throw. So that just goes to show, like, if you think about it, right? If your car, you're driving along and you get a flat tire, you don't write off the car. You don't throw away the car and go buy something else. And that's because you can fix a puncture, you can fix a flat tire. But I don't think enough people know that they can fix their clothes. And I think documentaries like the Buy Now one is because also in that it had that whole thing about like Apple not letting their customers repair the products that they have. Because, for example, I have an old iPad that I use for all my Instagram stuff. Makes it a lot easier to sit down and reply to everyone's comments. Thank you. But the battery is so slow. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, I need a new iPad. And that's because Apple, you lose the warranty if you go in and meddle with like the electronic circuit stuff inside of it. But now I think in the US, shown in this documentary, there is a right to repair. So basically the customer has a right to repair what they already have. Whereas before it would have been illegal, or you would lose the warranty or something along those lines. Don't quote me on this. I'm not into electronics, all that kind of stuff. But the consumption business model is based off us needing more of what they have. But if we take care of our things as best we can and we try to make do and mend and repair what we already have, I think that's a massive step forward. And then in other industries, like the electronics industry, where you have people, like shown in this documentary, that are actually trying to prolong the lifespan of something that the customer owns that still has life in it, except for this one little part. I think it should be that the consumer has the right to repair it, and that's what's shown in this documentary that I think is so important. I had another point to tell you guys about. Right to repair, right to reuse. That's it. So I used to watch this TV show. It's on Netflix again. Please Netflix, please sponsor me. I would love to do a sewing tutorial on Netflix if you would let me. So I watched a TV series called The 100, and then number 100, where it's about a group of teenagers that are basically, the world implodes essentially, nuclear war, all that, and countries send up people into space and they live in space for like 98 years or something, and then they start sending down people to make sure that the earth is habitable. Anyway, I think to myself, like, I think that genuinely was the kind of like mental switch that I needed, because then it got me thinking, if I was one of those people that was sent down to earth, you can't just go and buy something. You can't just go buy a new t-shirt. You can't just go and like down to the shop and like buy what you need. You have to get creative in finding it and repurposing things that you already use. And as soon as you start to make that mental switch, you kind of realize how much stuff you don't need to buy. For example, so for my sister's dog's birthday, the same one that chewed this fabric, Lucy, I love you, but got to stay away from my fabric stash. I got all of her toys and gifts, because she loves chewing toys and all that kind of stuff, from secondhand shops. And as I was there, I also saw the clothing donation pile. And it was a massive, like, you know, those standard wheelie bins. And it was overflowing. And that was just from that morning. There must have been about like 150 garments in there. And that's just what people are giving away. And I don't think, this is another thing, we're going to get on to so many other topics. I don't think, okay, first of all, people donate things because it doesn't feel good throwing them in the trash. And also people donate things because they think they're doing something good, right? But now secondhand shops, like a charity shop, are so overwhelmed with the amount of clothing that's coming in. They actually have to bundle it up and sell it essentially. And that goes to like Ghana, right, in Africa. And they have the import of, I think, like 15 million pieces of clothing per week, because they're just getting shipped all of our excess consumption. And it's decimating their textile and manufacturing trade, because essentially, why would people go and buy something from a local maker when they can get 20 times the amount of clothing at one of these markets where all of the clothing is sold that we've sent over? And if it's not sold, it's either buried, burned, or thrown away. So, because there's no real thrown away, right? It all ends up somewhere. And everything you will ever make returns to the earth as food or as poison. So by making and mending and repairing what you already have, not only extends the life of that garment, but it also adds new life to that garment, right? Because you're adding a part of yourself into it, right? So if somebody said, oh my God, I love your top, I'd be like, oh, this story about Lucy and Harry chewing at it, the point where I learned something from repairing it. And the fact that like, I feel good wearing it. And I know I will have this top for the rest of my life, right? I'm now letting go of this top. So this will stay with me for generations until it literally falls apart. So you can't say that about fast fashion, can you? You can't say, I went to Topshop. I don't even know if Topshop's around. I went to Zara or H&M and I love this top so much. I'm going to pass it down to my grandchildren or great-grandchildren, or I'm going to wear this top until it absolutely falls apart, because that is not the psychological pathway that somebody goes through when they consume something like fast fashion. I think the mindset shift is so important and so imperative for people to understand that, first of all, asking yourself the whole need versus want. And I also think there is a level of consumption that is good and healthy. We need new things, and we do no problem with what's it called, shopping therapy, therapeutic shopping kind of thing. All good. It's the overconsumption that is a problem. Because also I think a level of consumption is good for the economy, keeps things ticking over, small businesses, all that, great. The part that I'm talking about is the mass overconsumption of things that we do not need or already have, right? It's like the Stanley Cups, right? I think mass consumption is glamorized hoarding. That's it. Overconsumption is glamorized hoarding. For example, if you walk into a hoarder's house and open up, a storage container, pantry, kind of storage area of their house, and it's filled with newspapers that are like 40 years old, you think, oh my God, like hoarder, hoarder, hoarder. But if you go into another house and open up the same cupboard and it's 40 Stanley Cups, you go, oh my God, goals, like, love it. These are the same levels of consumption, but with different products. And the way we view one is negative, and the way we view the other is glamorized. And I think people are starting to see on social media and mainstream media that overconsumption of an item is actually detrimental to not only our mental health, our physical health, and our environmental health, and also the health of people globally, the people that make it in really bad working conditions, and also the waterways and the microplastics that are leaching out from our clothes. Because when you wash a synthetic fiber, it sheds microplastic that goes into the water, that drains out to the ocean, that fish eat, you know, they're around in it. And there was this, I can't remember, I think it might have been in the documentary, or it could have been in like some stuff that I've been watching this week. But like these fishermen, they catch a fish, open its stomach, and it's just full of plastic. And that has just made me gone, oh no, like I have like, and it's so overwhelming. Like, I know we've gotten off topic, but just let me go. I think it's so easy to go, this is too much. I don't know where to start. It's so overwhelming. I can't do this. It's too much. Shall I tell you how I started, right? Picking up a needle and thread and just repairing a button. I have tutorials on this YouTube channel that can teach you how to hem a pair of pants and clip a curved seam allowance. I'm trying to upload one about sewing on a button, but YouTube just ain't having it. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to keep on trying until I get it up. And then also, so that's like repairing what you already have in little ways, baby steps, literally baby steps, one stitch at a time. And then another way that I really love, and this genuinely makes my day because I see the difference and I notice the difference. So whenever I'm walking from point A to point B, I'll take a empty paper bag that I've brought my groceries home in, or I just have lying around, or an empty cardboard box or whatever, some container of some kind. And what I do, as I walk from point A to point B, I'll pick up rubbish. Now, what this does is, first of all, I'm taking an action to change my environment for the better, right? I'm also being a part of the solution. And also, I feel so good about it, right? Because I know that that one piece of rubbish is not going to end up in the waterways by going down the drain. I made that choice and I made that difference. And it's easy to go like, oh, but if everyone does that and da-da-da-da, yeah, that's cool. But action is the antidote to anxiety. If I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed by something, I've just got to do an action, just some kind of action. And if I don't have a piece of like a container or something, or I'm just walking home from the gym or whatnot, I have a rule, right? If I see a piece of rubbish on the street and I see a bin within eye shot, I pick up that piece of rubbish and put it in the bin. Now, there are certain things that I won't pick up, like tissues or anything that's been like food, I won't pick up. You know, common sense here. But I think if it's too overwhelming to do everything you want to do, start with what you can do. Can you just sew your little strap a little bit better next time? Yes, I can. Can you hem your pants yourself instead of throwing them out because they're falling apart? Yes, you can. You can do it. It might seem overwhelming and hard and difficult, but you can. It's not, I think I heard something the other day and it was like, it's not easy, but it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. And I think if you have that mindset, you really can start to compound your efforts. And then you're placing value on your values. And I think that's a great place for us to start. Ironically, I say that at the end of our video. So I hope you guys stuck through that half an hour long video. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll just keep on uploading and making these videos same time next week. Right, I'll see you later. Bye bye.